As part of the Performance Matrix screening module and screening platform, we provide a specific training session on movement optimisation training as a module. The movement optimisation module starts with the important part of the screen, the profile. So we start with a couple of profiles that have been generated either on a previous course or training session or previous screens that clients have done. And then based on a couple of movement and performance profiles, we identify what are the uncontrolled movements that are low threshold and the uncontrolled movements that are high threshold risk factors. And so we spend a little bit of time on trying to understand how to prioritise those risk factors. Of the high risk factors, where do we start? And we find some key priorities, build around the profile that's been generated from the screen. And then the whole course and the whole training program and the modules build around trying to find strategies. The aim is not to just give a whole bunch of exercises that people take away and then only get limited to the group of exercises we manage to do in a couple of days. We look at training strategies and principles to deal with low threshold risk factors. So when there are coordination, alignment, timing risk factors in terms of sight and direction, so we identify some of those sight and direction problems and then specifically work through strategies to fix those low threshold problems in terms of direction control training and also global stabiliser specific recruitment so that we can then reevaluate and retrain them. So we look at lots of options using body weight and positioning only, because lots of clients will go home and not necessarily have equipment to work with. We also use a variety of different equipment to create proprioceptive challenges to the movement system that we can then use to stimulate it and make it more interesting. We also look at retraining high threshold risk factors. So high threshold risk factors are strength, speed and endurance deficiencies in terms of the sight and directions of uncontrolled movement. So again, we look at direction control and global stabiliser specific strengthening strategies as the key problems to work with and the key starting points. But the ways that we build strength and we build speed control and we build recover our high threshold deficiencies is we can use increased load in these systems to manage, to add load to add tension and fatigue to muscles to sort of improve their strength dealing with uncontrolled movement. We can also look at high speed or rapid alternating arm leg movements. That when we do high speed movements, it creates fatigue and co-contraction at the pelvic girdle and the shoulder girdle that link the girdles to the core. It creates fatigue and tension in the muscles that are doing rapid change of direction movements of the arms or legs. And then we also use strategies of creating stability challenges to the core or to the pelvic girdle or to the shoulder girdle or to the hip or the knee or the foot, wherever the problem is. And so by challenging the ability to control movement, using a variety of different tools. And again, we set it up using body load and positioning, putting muscles in positions of disadvantage to fatigue them and as we gain control. The important thing is that when we're retraining control of high threshold, weak length or strength, speed, endurance deficits, it's important not to just use the maximum load you can move, but to train with the maximum load or to retrain with the maximum load you can control. And that's an important factor. And so depending on the uncontrolled movement, the load you can control for one particular uncontrolled movement might be different for another. But we train exercise and movement professionals to evaluate what is the best strategy to deal with low threshold uncontrolled movements in terms of sight and direction and high threshold uncontrolled movements in terms of sight and direction to develop an individual, prioritized, targeted retraining program.